What's up guys, Derek here with Tap and Turn Gaming coming at you today with another one of our top 10 secret tech videos. Today's secret tech will be from the first of our dual color series for RAKDOS. So we're just going to be going over some cards that we feel are maybe underplayed, maybe underused, maybe just bring something good to the table that color doesn't normally have. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at what we found. So first up we have some creatures. First one we have is a Nethermancer. He says, when a Nethermancer comes into play, it deals damage to target player equal to the number of non-basic lands this player controls. And he has Unearth. He's also a zombie, so he has a great tribe. He's also a wizard, so he has a secondary great tribe. And he costs 1, a black, and a blue. So he's a 3-cost 2/2. Well costed for a 2/2 body with a great ability. What makes him amazing is everyone plays non-basic lands in EDH, and for some people, every land in their deck is a non-basic land. So this guy can easily do 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 damage. I mean, I've played this guy and had him come in and just dominate an opponent. He dies and then unearth him to do it again. It's really, really powerful. And that's why we have him on the list, is just because of the power that this guy packs in such a small body. Next up we have Deathbringer Thoctor. He's a very fun card to use. He's a 6-cost 3/3. If you put him in any kind of build where creatures are going to naturally die, he gets really, really big. Whereas you can, whenever a creature dies, he gets a +1/+1 counter. And even if it's a token. Now, most cards like him say whenever a non-token creature dies. He is just whenever a creature dies, he gets a +1/+1 counter. Very, very cool. And you can remove 1 +1/+1 counter from him to deal 1 damage to a creature or player. So what's nice about this is if you have a sack outlet, you can sack a bunch of creatures to him, swing to your opponent, hit them, remove the counters to hit the opponent more. That's a lot of damage there. Also, if he gets 1/1 counter on him and you remove that to kill a 1/1, he gets the counter right back. So he can, at will, machine gun 1/1s off the board immediately. He also lets you power him up just by killing off your creatures, and that's not bad at all either. For a 6-cost 3/3, he's not very well costed for his body, but his ability is just so good. He's also a zombie, so he fits right into the zombie tribe very well, and zombies like to die. It's just kind of what they do. He does have a good friend in another Mancer, because if another Mancer dies, he gets a 1/1 counter. Cool stuff going on there. Up next we have Swiftwar Kite. This guy is a 6-cost 4/4 flyer, who says, when Swiftwar Kite enters the battlefield, you may put a creature card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your hand or graveyard onto the battlefield. That creature gains haste and return it to your hand at the beginning of your next end step. So what's really powerful about him is that you can only put generally a smaller creature. It has to be 3 mana cost or less, but it can go from your hand or your graveyard right to the battlefield, and then at the end of it gains haste, so it can attack right away, and then at the end of the turn it goes back to your hand. That is a very, very powerful ability. You know, you play this guy and then put in maybe another Mancer, hit them for a bunch of damage, and at the end of the turn, the end of the Mancer goes back to your hand. That's pretty cool. And if you have any way to flicker him with like a Conjurer's Closet, you can keep on reusing those abilities. Super powerful. Super powerful. Very, very underrated. I mean, you can cast this guy and bring in, if you're playing Jund, you can cast him and bring in a Fierce Empath to search your library for a 6-cost or greater creature. Or you can bring an Eternal Witness to get something back. Or any number of ungodly things that you can bring in that have ETBs at the 3 mana cost or lower slot is just super powerful. And I think he's just underplayed. I don't think people utilize him a lot because they don't see the chain gun potential that he has, and he does really have a lot of chaining potential. Then up next we have Underworld Cerberus. I think this guy's very, very overlooked for what he does, but he's a 5-cost 6/6, so for his cost he's got a great body on him. He's got a real nice body. But he says Underworld Cerberus can't be blocked except by 3 or more creatures. So likely you're probably not going to be able to have this guy blocked very often, because they need 3 creatures just to block him. After that, he says cards and graveyards can't be the target of spells or abilities. So he may possibly hinder you if you have a graveyard theme, but if your opponent does, he's going to shut them down as well. Like, you play this guy, and a Carador deck is probably just going to scoop. They're not going to want to have to deal with this guy, because you don't have to attack with him. You don't. And then he has when Underworld Cerberus dies, exile it, and each player returns all creature cards from his or her graveyard to his or her hand. Now that could potentially be a downfall for you because it could get back creatures for your opponent, but really you want to just bring him down, and as long as the opponent only has 2 or less creatures, keep swinging and swinging and swinging. And then if they have enough creatures that they could go ahead and block him and maybe kill him, don't swing with him. Let him sit there and do what he does and stop them from accessing their graveyard. So he's really good on 2 fronts. He's good because he has aggro to him, as well as a form of control, anti-graveyard control. And that's a pretty powerful little setup that he has going on. We have some enchantments. Ghostly Flame. This is a really cool enchantment because it says both black and red permanents and spells are considered colorless. So what this does is this shuts down protection from black and red if you're in black and red. And that's very, very nice. It's a pretty cool setup that they have to be able to do that. I really like this card a lot. It's only costs 2 mana to play, and for what it does, it's pretty cool. You know, it shuts down a sort of light and shadow because of the black. It shuts down a sort of fire and ice because of the red, feast and famine because of the black. Just all that good stuff. It just really protects you well from things that you normally couldn't touch or that could stop you and you couldn't prevent it. So that's why that's on the list. Up next we have Reign of Gore. This is mostly in there for the fun factor, but it is a 2-cost enchantment that says if a spell or ability would cause its controller to gain life, that player loses that much life instead. Now, everyone could say, well, that can hurt you as well. Well, if you have this in your deck, you're probably not going to be playing a lot of life gain, so there's that. Most players pack some sort of life gain. People like to pad their life, it's just what they do, but it's more or less like you put this down, and if they have like a Divinity of Pride, that's the 8/8 with lifelink, they're not going to want to swing with him because you could just block with a 1/1 and they're going to lose 8 life. That's a good trade-off. So for what this does is it's really, really pretty fun. Then up next we have Suicidal Charge. This says sacrifice Suicidal Charge. Creatures your opponents control get -1/-1 until end of turn, and those creatures attack this turn if able. So what's really nice with this is sort of like a pseudo alpha strike for you. Number 1, you can sacrifice it and get rid of any 1/1 on the board, so that's fun. But also, your opponent will have to attack. So if you plan this properly and you have it set to when you want to do it, you sacrifice this, force all their creatures to attack. That means all their creatures tap down, and now on your turn you can alpha strike. And that's really the point of why this is on the list, not because it makes opponents attack you and you're going to get hurt, but because of how you can use it as an effective combat strategy if you plan your things out well. You know what your opponent has on the board, you can see it, you can plan it, you can prevent it. And then you sack this, you go ahead, all the creatures get a -1/-1, so it's pretty fun stuff. For some instance, we have Augment Spree. So what I like about Augment Spree is it's a 3-cost instant that says target creature gets +4/-4 until end of turn. And this is so very versatile. Like, what this does is so amazingly versatile that I wish more people would just pay attention to it. You attack with a guy that's unblocked, give him a +4. That's awesome. Your opponent attacks with a 4/4, kill it. That's pretty awesome too. But what if your opponent attacks you with a 5/5? Well, you go ahead and hit this on their creature. Now that creature becomes a 9/1. You block it with a 1/1, it dies. So that's very, very cool. Or if you attack with a 5/5 and they block with something like a 9/9. Well, you go ahead and cast this on your creature. Your creature now becomes a 9/1. He takes out their 9/9 that blocked. The combat trick potential with this, if you stop and think about the move you want to make, is so good. It can be used aggressively as a pump. It can be used defensively as a kill. It can be used as a combat trick. This spell just has a lot of value for what it does. Then we have Cauldron Dance. This is a really, really fun card. It's a 6-cost card that says play Cauldron Dance only during combat. And it says return target creature card from your graveyard to play. This creature gains haste and return it to your hand at the end of turn. So that's pretty cool. You get a res, and then at the end of turn it goes back to your hand so you can cast it again. Pretty fun. Also, put a creature card from your hand onto the battle into play. That creature gains haste and put it into your graveyard at end of turn. So not bad at all. For 6 mana, you get 2 creatures into play. One will die at end of turn. One goes back to your hand. So again, this is one of those situations where if you plan it, it's going to be very, very effective. You could put something like cast this and put a Inferno Titan from your graveyard into play, he deals us 3 damage. Then you go ahead and put a Grave Titan from your hand into play, and he's going to get the 2 zombies. They both have haste, so they both attack. You attack with the Inferno Titan, deal 3 more damage. Attack with the Grave Titan, get 2 more zombies. At the end of turn, Inferno Titan goes back to your hand, and Grave Titan goes to the graveyard. And then next turn, cast the Inferno Titan again. This is another one of those cards. As long as you plan it out, it will be very, very effective for you. And don't just cast it willy-nilly. Cast it when you're ready, and you will get super, super value out of it. Then up next we have Din of the Fireherd. This is an 8-cost sorcery that says put a 5/5 black and red elemental creature token into play. Target opponent sacrifices a creature for each black creature you control, then sacrifices a land for each red creature you control. So at its worst, at its absolute worst, it's an 8-cost card that gives you a 5/5 red and black elemental. The opponent sacrifices a creature and a land. I would say that's not terrible for its worst, absolute worst cost. But you have to figure, this requires 8 mana. You may have another couple creatures down, you know? Let's say you have down this. Let's say you cast this and you have down, I don't know, a Nethermancer and Swiftwar Kite. So now when you cast this, it's going to say, oh, you now have 3 red creatures and you have 3 black creatures. The opponent has to sacrifice 3 lands, and they have to sacrifice 3 creatures. So 8 mana for you to get a guy, for them to sacrifice 3 creatures, and them to sacrifice 3 lands. That is value town right there. Again, at its worst, you're getting a 5/5 creature. They lose a land and a creature. That's not bad at all. At its best, who even knows? Who even knows what this could do at its best? I mean, I don't even know. It's a pretty fun card, especially late game. If you've built up a little bit of a token army, like a red-black token army, I don't even know. The things you could do with it are crazy. Just crazy. But that rounds out our top 10 list. So the cards were a Nethermancer, Deathbringer Thoctor, Swiftwar Kite, Underworld Cerberus, Ghostly Flame, Reign of Gore, Suicidal Charge, Augment Spree, Cauldron Dance, and Din of the Fireherd. That rounds out the entire top 10 Secret Tech for RAKDOS colors. This is Derek with Tap and Turn Gaming. Please like, comment, subscribe, and all that stuff. We will catch you later with the next video. Thanks a lot, and goodbye.